if I was to ask you the question, G, process automation, how's that changing? And I guess it's quite a broad topic, so maybe break it out into how is it changing from the way people build automation systems and then into what advantages you get with modern tech these days, just broadly.
Yeah, broadly. Yeah, there's so much that goes on within process within organizations, and it all depends on the scale of the process, whether or not it's a governed process by an external authority, like within financial markets or an insurance company or healthcare, or whether it's an internal kind of HR process. So let's just at the beginning here, the process can mean many things to many people. But when we look at the general direction of travel, we've worked in the process automation space, which is very prescriptive process, which is very locked down. In order to achieve X, Y, Z within a business, we do this, we then do this, and then we do this. And it's all very prescriptive, very rules-based before a process kicks off in terms of when we talk about workflow and tasking that goes around. And over the last couple of years, as we see agentic AI now coming up, but before that, I'd say plain old bog standard LLMs with ChatGPT, we actually see that we're moving to a less prescriptive process-based workflow that we go in, and that opens up a world of possibilities. For many people, it sets alarm bells going off, going, well, what does that mean when we don't have a rules-based workflow or a prescriptive process that we go through? But it moves us into a new way of working in terms of our processes, and it's quite an interesting paradigm shift to move in that from rules-based to a more agentic-centric way of working, and we'll probably unpack that a little bit later on. One other thing that has struck me, and I guess this is, since we started Jam and we started building processes for people, what can seem on the surface like a very simple process to build or to model can have so many intricate pieces that need to fit together, both from a business requirement, but also an integration requirements as well. So as we talk about kind of agentic AI and how you piece things together, because people are using more SaaS products, got lots of different technologies inside, actually stitching everything together is a big job now. And, holistic processes across an organization can get quite complex quite quickly. So yeah, those are the kind of things that we're seeing as we shift in. I know you've been involved in working with some financial services companies recently on their kind of client onboarding as well. I don't know what you've seen in terms of the shift of the more traditional workflow into what we're seeing now.
Yeah, so I kind of see this as another wave in automation that we've been involved in over the last few years. And you talk about moving from a very structured workflow into kind of a less structured process based. And if I think what you and I were involved in heavily about probably 10 years ago initially in its inception was around just good old fashioned case management, where everyone was saying we've been trying to drive these highly structured workflow processes, but we're trying to make people who have got a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise, and we're trying to ring fence them into you will work this way. And that actually makes it very difficult for those people to do their job. But again, to your point, it makes it very difficult to even get that knowledge into the process, right? Because it all sits in experts' heads, and there's a lot there, and there's so many variances and nuances, and even before you think about the integration side that you mentioned, just that whole concept meant that case management was nice because you could say, these are the main stages that we're going to go through. And at each stage, I'm just going to give a toolbox of things for somebody that knows what they're doing to go and do the work, but record they're doing it, make sure they're compliant, and then shimmy out to the next stage and out. And that's actually worked really well for a lot of industries as you go through, right? And the atypical one people talk about would be sort of complaint handling, but there's advanced stuff in matter management and things that we know and love because of some of the work that we've been doing. And as we look at the way process is evolving now, I see it coming back to that same ethos, but rather than doing it through basically opening up a case file and recording everything that goes in there and letting a person do it, actually they're with LLMs and with generative AI, etc., and then people talking about agentic AI and anonymous agents, the ability to go and get that knowledge and put it into process and how that gets orchestrated is, again, you said, moving away from that having to pre-describe it and make it more knowledge-based in quite an interesting way, which I know that we'll talk about a little later. So that's at the heart of the evolution. I think it's the same thing as you. The overall problem hasn't changed, and the approach to trying to tackle it probably hasn't changed either. But the technology approach fundamentally changing.